Welcome back to the Art and Skill of Coaching, where I teach you how to coach. So, there is this pivotal moment most coaches experience, even if they don't talk about it, where that initial excitement starts to wear off and that reality sets in, and they struggle in silence. They struggle with the challenges that are inevitable. They struggle with the learning curves that no one prepares you for, both as a new entrepreneur and a new coach working with clients. And even though you love this work and you care deeply, and maybe you've even done your own growth and changed your life in real ways, something still feels off. Some sessions feel powerful and aligned, and others leave you overthinking what you said and what you missed, or what you should have done differently, or what you could do better next time. And you wonder if you're actually even helping them. And if you've ever felt any of this episode is for you. Because today we're talking about the 5 stages that most coaches go through from the very beginning to the very end, why each stage happens, what it feels like, and how skill development, not confidence hacks or motivation or information, is what is going to actually move you forward. Because let's be real for a second. Most people don't wake up one day and randomly decide, I want to be a life coach, especially if they've gone to school and maybe paid for a degree and have a career job. What usually ends up happening is that coaches are individuals who have personally reached a crossroad in their life, a challenge, a loss, a breaking point, or some deep dissatisfaction and lack of fulfillment and meaning that they couldn't explain away. And at that moment, they eventually made a choice. They either accepted their circumstances or they responded to the challenge and they figured it out. They grew. And those people that choose growth often throw themselves into professional or personal development. I know because this was me. I read all the books, I listened to all the podcasts, I hired the trainers, the therapist, the coach, I went back to school, I started the business, right? And a lot of people can probably identify with a journey like this. They are messy, they are nonlinear, and they start with building awareness and then working on your mindset and then learning new skills and then failing forward and eventually changing your life. This journey is so intimate, it's so powerful, and it shifts your identity. I know for me, what you see today is not what existed 10, 15, 20 years ago. When I started my personal growth journey, I was a rough around the edges 18-year-old. I had an opportunity to work with this marketing firm. It was commission based with uncapped income, but it did require belief work. It required a growth mindset. It required leadership skills that honestly I didn't have. But I looked around and I was listening to people and I was watching what they were doing. And I realized that there was a real opportunity here for me that wasn't present in my life before. And if I didn't take advantage of that opportunity, I was choosing to just repeat all the generational patterns and trauma and helplessness as a woman from my background, instead of choosing to create the life that I saw other people having and believing that it was possible for me too. And so I went for it. I put $6,000 back in 2009 on a credit card that I opened up, my very first credit card, to talk to a man on the phone that I never met in person for 30 minutes every other week, y'all. For 30 minutes every other week. But I have never looked back, and I still to this day leverage and pull from that coaching I got. And for many people, myself included, a natural byproduct of growth, insight, results, and changing our lives is altruism. You don't just want to be better, you want to help others experience the same shifts you did and help them change their lives because it was such a gift to you. And this is where almost everyone who becomes a life coach starts. It's when they begin considering or deciding to become a coach. And naturally, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of energy. There's a sense of purpose. You're eager to share what you learned and support others. And at first, that enthusiasm is so contagious. That energy is so contagious, and it can really carry you. And so I talked about there being 5 stages today. This is stage 1, and I call it the brand new coach. And it's so much fun to be here. That ignorance and that naiveness is so exciting. I remember it, and I wish I still had it. But like with most people, it's short-lived, because once you start working with real humans, real nervous systems, real trauma, real complexity, real problems, you will eventually hit a wall. And it's not a problem, it's part of the journey. And sometimes what ends up happening when you hit that wall more than once is you start to get overwhelmed. You start to get overwhelmed by the business side of things. You start to get overwhelmed by the coaching side of things. You start to get overwhelmed by maybe a complex mixture of both. And that's normal, because there is no standardized training. There is no degree to becoming a life coach. There's no residency program. There's no internship. There's no supervision when you get into the industry. So that learning curve hits, and it hits hard, right? And it can be really unexpectedly steep and disorienting. And what ends up happening is a lot of people hit this place and they prematurely quit. They leave here because their experience didn't meet their expectation. This dream that's being sold online that you can quit your job and become a 6-figure coach in 90 days or 100 days or 6 months or a year. And I'm not saying that's impossible. I've literally seen it happen, and it happened with me. but it is a lot harder than you think, especially with a little background outside of your personal experience. But the ones who know, you know what, this is hard, but this is meant for me, or this is hard, or I feel a deep calling, or this is hard, or I want to stay and figure it out, those are the ones who make it to stage 2. But before I talk about stage 2, let me share a story about a client. So I have a client inside of the Art and Skill of Coaching, which is our coach certification program right now. She's a successful entrepreneur, one who has continued to grow in her business because of her personal development. She's done years of therapy, coaching. She's read the book. She goes to retreats. She listens to the podcast, you name it. So coaching has just felt like a natural extension for her, especially as she's positioned herself in her community as a person who has a lot of value to add. And people come to her and ask her questions and want to take her to coffee and pick her brain and ask for her time and ask her questions about her journey. And she thought to herself, I should start charging for this. And she should. She had a lot of value to add. And so she started working with friends and referrals almost immediately. And at first it felt amazing. People liked her. They were getting results. She was experiencing success. She made 5 figures out the gate. But after a few months, she struggled to sustain. Not because she didn't care, not because she wasn't capable, but because she was unprepared. She literally only had enough to get started in terms of sharing with her warm market. She didn't know how to structure a session. She didn't know how to intervene when someone was spiraling out. She didn't know how to develop a business out of it. And it wasn't that she was a failure or unable to do it. She just simply had outgrown the initial enthusiasm and needed real skill to sustain. And I know I keep saying that this is very normal, and it is. It's a natural occurrence, and it actually follows suit with science. So there's something called the learning theory. So let me talk about this. In psychology and education, there are 4 steps to competency. So step 1 is where most people enter. It's the unconscious incompetence stage. You don't know what you don't know yet, right? So everything's exciting, everything's new, you're eager, and you just dive right in. And you do that until you hit your first wall, which takes you to step 2, which is conscious incompetence. And this is where you start to realize what you don't know. And that can be really overwhelming and throw you into a lot of doubt. Now, if you decide to stay and continue to break through, you will eventually find yourself moving into stage 3 of the learning theory, which is conscious competence. This stage does require commitment and effort. You have to continue learning, you have to continue practicing, and you're going to have to stay committed as you fail forward, because that's the only way to move to the last stage, stage 4, which is unconscious competence, which is your skill becomes embodied. It's intuitive over time. You've built the wisdom, and that is now your new baseline because you've put in the reps. And what I've noticed is that most new coaches move very quickly from stage 1, the brand new coach, to stage 2, which I'm going to talk about in a second, the coach on the rise. But we have another dip after stage 2 because stage 2 is actually really uncomfortable. Let's talk about it. So in stage 2, the coach on the rise, when they enter this stage, they'll also enter what I call the coaching gap. So they are committed, you care, you know this work matters, but you're acutely aware of what you can't do yet. Okay, you know, and you feel it on your sessions that some clients will stump you, some clients will confuse you, overwhelm you, and you'll see that your personal experience or your soft skills aren't resonating with your clients. Maybe your toolbox isn't sufficient enough for those really complex or difficult clients, and your soft skills create awareness and make them feel good, but they aren't enough to move the client into action, and so they don't get the result. And so what you do to overcompensate for this doubt and confusion is consume information, which is good. That's what you want to do here. You learn more stuff. But what ends up happening is that knowledge doesn't equate to skill development. And sometimes it can be really frustrating when you're in this learning curve. And you might just keep hitting this wall and noticing your blind spots and feeling really inferior and confused and doubtful. And again, this is all part of being in the coaching gap. And being in the coaching gap sucks because you want to go deeper, you want to get your clients results, but you just don't have the education, the experience, or the skills or tools to do it effectively yet. That's the key word, yet. Because in this stage, you're starting to have awareness, right? But that awareness without the skill gets really frustrating. But it's actually progress when you put in the effort and stay committed to learn, practice, and fail forward. I hope you can hear how neutral I sound about all of this because it's not a you problem. This isn't that you're not motivated or smart or capable or intelligent or not confident enough. It's a training issue, and it is a training problem across the coaching industry. And it makes total sense. Think about it. A lot of certifications are super basic. A lot of training programs are super basic. They're meant to help you break into the industry. They're meant to help you become a coach. They're not teaching you how to coach. Let me give you an example. So we actually just had a recent graduate. She just graduated about a month ago inside of the Art and Skill of Coaching. And she had been coaching for years, I think like 3 or 4 years at that point. And she loved it. And she had some success with clients, but she knew something was missing. She wanted to offer more. She wanted to help her clients in a deeper way than just the worksheets and the tracking that they were doing. But but was overwhelmed with all the options. Should I do this certification? Should I learn this? And she was just coasting on what she knew and consuming more and more information, thinking that that would add more value to her clients. And it just made them more dependent on her and more confused. And she realized my sessions aren't getting better and my business isn't growing as a result. She was very much stuck in the coaching gap. And so she joined the art and skill of coaching to close that gap by learning the tools and developing her skills. And within 6 months, she had massive results in both her client sessions and in her business. By the way, let me say this before we move on to stage 3. It's not about being better if you're in stage 3 versus stage 2. It's just about objectively and without judgment, truly identifying where are you in this learning curve? Where are you in your level of competency? And again, learning curves happen for anyone learning anything new. It is not a problem. We all started there. And I've had to go through this learning curve twice, once as a therapist and then again as a coach, because learning curves don't resolve through motivation or confidence. They resolve themselves through skill development, which takes me to stage 3, the good coach. So good coaches are just that. They're good. They're not great yet. There's that word again, yet. They're active listeners. They show up. Their clients like them. They do their own work. They have a solid foundation and maybe a few key tools that they trust because they worked for them. And sometimes their sessions flow beautifully, especially with self-aware clients or clients that are like the coach. They have a personal history or presenting problem that the coach can really identify with. That coaching sometimes is a little bit easier. But then come the harder cases. Here come the clients with a trauma history, clients who are stuck, clients with really complex circumstances, clients who maybe intellectually understand everything but can't change. And the coach starts to feel that rub again. They start to hit that edge again, the place where intuition, soft skills, and your one tool aren't enough. And again, it's not that you're not enough or you're incapable. It's just a training issue. And the difference now is commitment. All good coaches who end up becoming great don't quit. That's the difference. It's not that there was some magic sauce or they had a personality that was different than others. It's just that they didn't quit. They doubled down. They looked for tangible tools. They refined their skills, not just consumed information. And they kept doing that until they moved into stage 4, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But I want to give you another example. So we actually had a recent graduate inside of the art and skill of coaching who came in already making 6 figures as a coach. They had 2 existing certifications, a full caseload, and she knew she was a good coach, but she wanted more. She wanted to be great. She had a few techniques that she liked. She had great intuition, and some clients really benefited from it, and some clients didn't. So it really sparked her into looking into the art and skill of coaching, and she got her first negative review from a client. She got a client who said, I don't like this. This isn't helpful. And it wasn't from a lack of care or effort on the coach's part. She just reached the edge of her existing skill set. So she took responsibility for this. She took some self-inventory about her gaps in her practice, and she knew that we could solve that issue for her inside of the art and skill of coaching, and she joined. So we didn't change everything in her business. We added to it. We gave her structures and frameworks and a bigger variety of tools to use with a variety of clients. And now she has an effective toolbox that she can use, and her coaching is so much more effective. It's so much more flexible, and her clients are raving about her. And because of this, she is now in stage 4, which I call the master coach in the making. Stage 4 is the turning point. This coach realizes it's time to stop collecting information and start refining their craft and start to pursue nuance. They start to pursue advanced training, and they practice and they fail forward and they get feedback and they train alongside other coaches who are also at that advanced level, who are serious and skilled. And they're able to really develop not just their soft skills, but their hard skills. They're able to move from insight to intervention and from awareness to transformation consistently. Their coaching is effective every time because they are competent, which is the foundation of real confidence that doesn't wear off. And their work starts to stand out. They start to have raving clients who they can retain and that refer to them. I'll give you an example. And I saw this happen with an ASC grad that took what she learned from our program and combined it with her existing practice, which was super niche and so special and so unique, but she needed more structure and frameworks and science to really solidify her and position her as an expert and an authority in her particular niche. And she did just that. And it was so beautiful to watch her take what she learned and just like 10x her business. And she went on to run successful retreats and programs and offer high ticket one-on-one. And this happens when coaches get out of the guessing phases. They get out of the consumption phases. They ditch their doubt and they really start to know what they're doing, why it works, how to do it consistently, and they can repeat it effortlessly. And because she's so committed to her craft, she's still training deliberately. She's still practicing not just what she learned, but new things as well. well, and getting feedback, coaching high level clients, and her clients are getting bigger results faster. And she trusts herself more, which that self assuredness really comes off as confidence. And when you repeat this over time, you're going to eventually reach stage 5, which is the expert coach. Expert coaches have put in their reps, guys. They have 10 years, they have 10,000 hours, they have unique intellectual property and frameworks and interventions and tools that work consistently. And they're not just out here consuming and regurgitating information, they're integrating everything that they've learned over the last decade plus. They're integrating science and psychology and wisdom and personal experience, and they are embodying it, which is taking these concepts and insights and making them tangible. These coaches, there is a very distinct difference. You can hear it when they talk. You can feel it when you're in the same space with them. There is a distinction here. And I believe that I've reached this point just recently. I've been in this industry and practicing coaching since 2009. I was a therapist turned coach. I've had my coaching practice going on 10 years. We've crossed the $1 million threshold. I've worked with literally thousands of clients, both as a therapist and coach. And now I train other coaches. And it's such a privilege to do this work. And I continue to invest in high level masterminds to learn from the best of the best. And it's been so good to see my skill just continue to develop, where it feels so easy for me to coach now. And my clients are coming in with bigger goals and they're reaching those goals and getting results faster. And it's easier for me to help them do that. So it's so exciting to see this happen. And it's really cool to see other coaches reach this stage too. You can see that everything just feels precise and clean, and it's grounded in some psychology and science. There's this wisdom that they developed over time. They know when to slow a client down. They know when to challenge. They know when to intervene. They have a variety of skills to do so. They know when to let silence do the work. And you can see the difference in the way that their clients respond. They don't just feel supported, they change consistently. I recently saw this happen on a podcast where Tony Robbins was on a podcast being interviewed, but he heard and saw something in the interviewer, and through a conversation actually was powerfully coaching the person and shifting their mindset and building their awareness and helping them make decisions to be better. And you can see that this was seamless for him. This was so easy. It almost became intuitive, but really what it is, it's an informed gut. They're drawing from years of repetition, psychology, and embodiment and skill set. And you can hear it in the way that they think, the way they speak, and the way that they work with their clients. And so the question isn't what level coach am I? It's how am I going to move through these 5 stages intentionally, and how quickly am I going to do that? So what I've done for you guys is I actually have a really special link in the show notes for you. It is our coach skill audit. This is a free assessment to help you identify what stage you're actually currently on and what your next step would be to get into the next stage. And if you already know that you're somewhere between stage 1 and stage 4 and you want to coach at stage 3, 4, or 5, then the Art and Skill of Coaching is for you, and we are ready to have you. Enrollment for our spring class is open for 1 more week, and then we close our doors for 6 months. This is a coaching certification that goes beyond the basics. We really give you everything you need to feel competent and confident and capable as a coach. Everything's grounded in psychology, it's trauma informed, and it is designed to help you build real skill and move you through stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and put you on the path to stage 5 in just 6 months. We give you the tools and we give you the support to be on your way to becoming a master coach quickly. And if you're ready to go beyond the basics and really master the art and skill of coaching, we would love to have you. All you have to do is book a consultation to chat with me one-on-one, get all your questions answered, learn more about the course, and see if this is the next step for you in your coaching practice. So I'll throw the link in the show notes for that as well. And as always, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, leave us a review, share this podcast, and don't forget to hit subscribe so that you never miss another training to help you master the art and skill of coaching.